Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Film Club webinar. My name is Hannah Matthews. I'm a primary school network facilitator here at Whole Education. This afternoon we have 30 minutes to go through Film Club and to get a bit of an understanding and background to Film Club and what it could look like in your schools. So the aim of today's webinar is to give you a little bit more information, to give you some context about where Film Club has come from, how it's come to be, and what it will look like going forward in this academic year. We'll have a chance for questions at the end. So if anything kind of comes up for you while I'm speaking, feel free to make a note of it, and we'll have a discussion piece at the end here. For those of you that aren't familiar with the GoToWebinar software, I'll just give you a very quick run through so as it all makes sense. At the moment, I have all of you on mute, I'm afraid, just as there's quite often a bit of background noise, or sometimes we have interference, and this way you just get better clarity of sound. At the end, however, during question times and discussions, if you use the hand up function, I'll be able to see that there's something that you would like to say, and I can enable you, I can unmute you, so everybody else will be able to hear you as well. And the hand up function, hopefully you'll be able to see it. It just looks like a little raised hand, so you can see the thumb and the fingers there. If, however, you don't have a microphone today, that's no problem at all. If you have a question, you can use the chat feature down the bottom. And you can type something through to me and it will come through instantly. I'll be able to read it out and we can discuss together. Yeah, absolutely. If you have a question, send it through. Otherwise, we'll address it all at the end. So the structure of today is that we have 20 minutes to kind of go through Film Club, a little bit of its context, and then we have 10 minutes dedicated to question and discussion time at the end. So please, any questions or any kind of comments, make sure that we address them at the end. Okay, so let's make a start. The big question, what is Film Club? So Film Club is now a national project, and it's been developed by Iris Connect and us here at Whole Education, and it follows on from an EEF research pilot where teachers were helped to explore the use of dialogue and feedback through the use of video technology, and through this to kind of improve their own practice and also to improve the outcomes for their students as well. The dot points that you have on the screen here, the bullet points, they're some of the aims of Film Club. Overall, its aim is to develop self-regulating and independent learners through the effective use of classroom talk and feedback. So when we're talking about Film Club, we're kind of talking about these as the overall aims through the Film Club. So to give you a little bit of the background and the EEF pilot information, it was the EEF pilot, it was run with 11 schools and it lasted for a year. The schools took part in 6 modules, which is a little bit different from what we will be doing in Film Club this year, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a moment. 3 of the modules that they used in the pilot were very similar in terms of structure to what we will be using, and 3 were very different. So the last 3 modules that they did were where staff were filming themselves and then getting feedback from other teachers within their schools on their practice. You may be able to see in your panel that you have for this webinar that I've attached a handout, and the handout is the executive summary of the EEF findings. It's just a double-sided document, and it obviously just details what the findings of the pilot were, and I definitely say that it's worth a read. It won't take you too long at all, and obviously on the EEF website they have the in-depth findings for you to have a look at as well, if you so please. So we can see here that some of the findings were the evidence of change within the school climate, strong evidence that film clubs promote discussion of teaching and learning, and evidence of change in teachers' thinking and of changes in practice as well. So not only were teachers thinking about the changes, but they were also initiating the changes in their classroom practice. Following on from this, you can have a read through some more of the findings here, just another 4 bullet points. Probably one that I would like to speak to a little bit more is the final bullet point. So 10 of the 11 participating schools reported that they would actually continue to use Iris after the pilot had ended. And what's been really interesting since the pilot has finished is the way that schools have now moved on using Iris and the video technology and building it into their CPD. So a lot of the teachers within these schools, they were quite apprehensive about the technology and being filmed and having these really open professional discussions at first. But we've found now that it's really just a part of what they do in their school and something that they just do without question. So in terms of moving forward and what these schools are now doing, they use it in a variety of ways. Some of them use them for staff observations. So teachers have a lot more ownership of what's shown. It's really different kind of speaking about a lesson that you've taught versus speaking about a lesson that you've taught that you can then see in front of you and reflect on. Obviously, a very different point of view to be having. Some of our schools have continued and use it as part of a lesson study, and many of them have kind of just taken the model and used it on a focus area to implement a school priority. So one school in particular I know have used it with their implementation of reciprocal reading and to also focus on elements of Bloom's taxonomy. So a variety of ways that after the initial year project, Film Club and in particular Iris technology is now being used in school based on what happened with that initial pilot year. In terms of the Film Club that we will be running, let's have a bit of a look into that now. So a quick overview of Film Club is that there are 4 modules at the moment within our Film Club sessions. There are 2 more that are to be released. I believe both of them will be coming out this year, hopefully one quite soon. So eventually there will be the 6 modules in total. The 4 that we are focusing on, you can see listed here, and they're created to be sequential. So the first topic is The Empire Talks Back, and this module, this first one, is all about developing independent learners through effective use of classroom dialogue and feedback within that. O Learner, Where Art Thou is all around developing questioning, so using questioning and the different ways that we also use it in our classrooms to initiate thinking and discussions and problem solving, and how we use questioning to get a much better understanding of where our pupils are in their learning journeys. The third episode, Look Who's Talking To, is all around learner talk. So what our children in our classrooms are saying around collective thinking and also problem solving in this episode as well. The final episode of Film Club that we have is Feedback to the Future. And this is all about feedback within the context of our classroom dialogues. What makes it effective and how do we develop it even more to be using it in our classrooms? So with all 4 of these modules, it's based on a 4-week cycle of completion. So for example, The Empire Talks Back, module number 1, anywhere from 4 weeks through to a half term to complete. And we'll speak about that a little bit more in a moment, but it's not a rigid cycle. There are previewing and post-viewing tasks to complete, but the time frame in which you do that does allow some flexibility. So let's have a look at what that 4-week module looks like, keeping in mind that it is indeed very flexible. Right, sorry. So as I said, pre and post viewing for each module that can be broken down into the 4 weeks. The 4 weeks have a particular structure. So in week 1, it's learning and the background that we need to know before kind of our film club viewing and before being able to engage in these professional conversations. Week number 2 is watching, week 3 try, and week 4 discover. And within each of those modules, there is an element of theory. so as we understand the context and the background and the research. There's really clear video examples, and that's broken down into your learn and your watch sections. There's very particularly chosen and scaffolded discussion questions, and of course there's reflective activities at the end. So no matter which module you're doing, the structure within that is the same. Which makes it really easy to implement and helps your staff know exactly what they need to be doing to kind of be completing that film club. So week 1 is our learn week, and you can see here I've just taken some screenshots straight from the film club online platform. It is a really easy to use platform, and actually over the summer break there has been quite a bit of work done to this to give the website a bit of a refresh and to make the platform really easy to use. Iris have been really aware of teacher time and making sure that the tasks are easy to access, easy to find, and in bite-sized pieces of information so as we can access them and digest them nice and quickly. So week 1 is all about learning, and this is the pre-work that is to be completed before each film club viewing. As you can see, it's broken into 3 sections here. So a little reading, things to consider, and then watch this video. All of these can obviously be accessed online through the Film Club portal, but something helpful that's just been done as well is that there's now printable PDF versions that are available. So if a teacher would like to print this and read it on a train, for example, they're able to do that and understand the context behind the video. And then in the printable versions, they have QR codes in it. So if they have a QR reader, for example, on their phone or on their iPad, they'll be able to take a photo of the QR code and then watch the video in their own time as well. So it just helps to make it a little bit more flexible. With these particular pre-reading activities, they're designed to be in short sections. So you can see here for a little reading and things to consider, both of them are 15 minutes. So you don't have to do all of the pre-task in one go. So they're designed to be dipped in and out of, where you can just take a section, spend 15 minutes reading, and then the next day or whenever you have another chance, come back and look at the next part that you need to watch. So in here, you've got a little reading, and this is thinking about the research and the findings that we know about the topic that will be presented on, and things to consider in your own classroom before watching the actual video, which in this case is 20 minutes long. After your week 1, your learning, is then week 2, which is watch. And this is probably the part of film club that you're most likely familiar with. So a film club screening will see your staff gathered together for an hour. And within that hour, they'll be watching some short clips that are taken from the original pre-work video. And I've just taken, again, some screen grabs of them here. So in the first module, the original video went for 20 minutes, and we can see here that this snapshot of this video goes for 1 minute and 24 seconds. So a much shorter one to be watching together. You will be re-watching some of the clips, so although they're short, you'll be asked to watch through them first, just to refresh your memory, and then asked to watch through, but with a series of focus questions in mind. And these focus questions are here to help scaffold discussion and to really help get into depth. I think what's quite interesting about these clips and what's been chosen in terms of examples of practice is that they're all quite rich. So each time that you watch the video clip, you're watching it through a different lens or for a different point of view, and you really get to deep dive into the practice and what's happening in that particular classroom. You can pause at any time to review the lesson clip and to add comments, which is this part of the section that you can see here. So the bottom part of this page, you can see in video 1 that there are people adding in their comments through this, and you can choose particular times to add them in. And there are other features within that I'm not going to go into today, but just help in terms of enabling that discussion with your teams at school. So in the screenings for Film Club, the focus of them is to have really deep quality conversation. And in regards to the practice that you're watching, rather than just trying to cover all of the focus questions that are provided there. So we're really aiming to get into some wonderful deep discussions around the practice and what you're seeing in quite a lot of detail. And in order to do this really well and to kind of get into that depth of conversation and to, be able to challenge a colleague and have a difference of opinion, I think it's really important, and there's a recognition that we need to be creating safe environments where our staff can do these and where they feel really empowered and confident in stating their thoughts and opinion. So on the left-hand side here of the screen, you can see the kind of rules and a bit of an overview of Film Club. And again, that's just there to help, create that collaborative, safe environment. I think Film Club does a really good job of breaking down the barriers to do this. So in the first module, the video clip is actually set in an American classroom. So it's a maths lesson set, and you've got an American teacher and American student. So immediately, for a lot of people, they're kind of thrown, and it just takes the pressure off the situation, so they can actually analyse the practice and have a look there. So rules of Film Club there, and also the Film Club is a place just to help encourage that environment. So that's week 2. That's our watch. Week 3 is the try section of Film Club. So the third phase, it's where you take what you've discovered and learnt from weeks 1 and 2, and really importantly, what you've taken from the discussion that happened in your Film Club viewing, and it's a chance for teachers to experiment with it in your own classrooms. And it can be done in 2 ways, and I've put examples of both of them up here. So the first way that you can do it is to really plan in to use a very specific strategy or concept that you've either seen in the practice clip or that was discussed with your colleagues during your Film Club time. So an example here, again, from the first module, is to plan in using rich and open-ended question, or to try changing your approach to responding to answers given by your learners. And with this in mind, the overall aim is to give you a really specific example or focus of practice to kind of hone in on and to consider when you're reflecting after your lesson. So using what you've known from your pre-work, from your viewing, considering it in your own practice and being really consciously aware of that. Sorry, I'm just getting an error message about my audio not being very clear. Apologies for that. Let me see if there's anything I can close. Okay. The other part that you can do in your Film Club, which is probably more what you were expecting, is to record yourself while teaching with the view to contrast your practice with the discussion and ideas that came up during your Film Club viewing. You don't necessarily have to film a whole lesson, and likewise, you don't necessarily have to watch a whole lesson back. You can choose a part of this to focus in on to make it very focused. But again, it's just consciously being aware of a strategy or a new technique and reflecting on it afterwards. So in this case, the example that they've given is the quality and quantity of dialogue. So thinking about what that looks like in your lesson and how it differs from the Film Club viewing, either the discussion that you had around that or the video itself. Finally, the 4th week that we have is to discover. So our 4th phase. So the discover phase, it's a really natural progression from the try phase, and it's all about reflecting on your practice. So for example, if you tried a new strategy within your teaching and you planned it in, how did it go? What worked? What didn't? And why? And could you try to get in a new context? How does it contrast, or how does it relate to what you saw or discussed in the Film Club viewing? So being really curious as a learner yourself to try and approach this. If you recorded yourself, then you might choose to share the video of your teaching. And this can be really informally, where it's in the staff room over a cup of tea, or you can upload it to the Film Club platform and add comments yourself, or ask colleagues to add comments and give you feedback on that. The other thing that you can do online through the Film Club platform is participate in broader online discussions and forums that are on some kind of large questions that IRIS have and that IRIS are developing. So not only within your school community, but within the kind of wider online community there as well. As you can see, the weeks 3 and 4, the try and discover phases, they're obviously really, really strongly linked, and they can just continue to be implemented and refined based on the feedback and based on the reflection that you are giving and receiving. So this stage is also a really good stage to then go back to the pre-reading stage, to the learn stage, and go over things such as further research that's available in there, and really kind of take the opportunity to deepen your knowledge in that area. So in a very, very big nutshell, that sums up the Film Club cycle. So I hope that you can see that the weeks aren't really rigid, and that you can kind of plan this with your Film Club champion and staff to see what's working best for you in your school's context. I suppose the important thing to remember is just to make sure that you have that ample amount of time to complete all of the sections, and to not necessarily place all of the emphasis just on the screening section of Film Club, so just on that hours viewing, because obviously here the pre and post work is really, really a massive part of that as well. So now that we've got a bit of a broad understanding of what the actual Film Club modules entail and what that will look like in terms of time and commitment from you, this is a bit of an overview as to how this project will be done. So there are 4 modules that we've just seen that will be completed in this academic year, and you pick when that is. Ideally, we would like most of them to be completed by the end of summer 1. You will have a project lead who's responsible for Film Club in your school, and that's your Film Club champion. This person will also have administration access on the IRIS platform, so they'll be able to do things like access Film Club guides, and there's posters and screening information that they will be able to have. They will also be able to register your staff and give them access codes to make sure that they have they're able to use the online platform. And importantly, we would love for them to be attending the half-day events that we do. So the first event is a kick-off event that I hope that you've heard about, which is on the 5th of October at St Catherine's in the afternoon. So we'll be running this from 1 p.m. through until 4. And this is a launch event for the Wigan Primaries. It's a chance for us to go over Film Club in more detail than what we just have, and to think about how it's going to be implemented in your school. We'll go over the findings a little bit more from the EEF pilot, and also hear from schools who have implemented Film Club and what their journey has been and how they're kind of using it now too. The other 2 events that we plan on using, that we plan on having, are a midway event, which is in spring term, and this will very much be a check-in event for your Film Club champion to see how they're going, and to see any commonalities that we're having between the schools in Wigan, any problems, things that are working well, really checking in and assessing how we're going with Film Club. And the final event will be in the summer term after SATs, and this is to plan the next step for your own school, but also thinking about what we can do to support the next lot of schools going forward with Film Club in 2018 and 19. So it will give you a really big chance to kind of reflect on your own learning with this, and give whole ed some feedback on what we can do to adapt Film Club for future cohorts. And finally, there is support available if needed. So IRIS have a wonderful online support team. There's online chats available. I know that they have really good phone support, and obviously here at Whole Education as well, we're kind of always around for whatever you need. And the advantage of doing it through a cohort is that you will have each other to rely on to, and to be able to feed back to. So finally from me, next steps in terms of Film Club and your journey is, if you haven't already, think about a a film club champion within your school, who that will be, and plan in the 4 film club screenings for your CPD cycle. Film club champion to attend the launch event, which again is on the 5th at St Catherine's, to start film club in your school, and to then have your film club champion attend the 2 following events from there. That's my portion of the webinar done. So I'm going to hand it over to you now for any questions that you may have. As I said, at this stage, I have all of you on mute just because of the background noise and interference. If you have a question, can you please either use the raise your hand icon or the chat function at the bottom of the screen that you'll see there, and that will come through as an instant message to me. Okay, I'm not seeing anything come through yet. I might just take some people off mute and ask them if they have any questions, just to check here. Okay, Laura. Hi, Laura. I've just seen that I have a question here from you. Can you remind me what the film club screenings are that need to be planned into the CPD cycle? Of course. So the film club screenings are that week 2 part, and these will run for an hour. This is where you actually show parts of the film clip, and then you have those discussions in your schools, in your teams, about that particular video. So it will be an hour-long session. You'll need to make sure you have either a computer or a screen in there, and then that's where you actually do the film club viewing. I hope that helps. Thanks, Laura. Okay, if you have any more questions, feel free to send them through. If not, though, I'm guessing that most of them have hopefully been answered. Sorry, Laura, I'm just looking at yours again. Nope, they're all answered. If you have any questions, yes, please do send them through. Otherwise, feel free to email me. I'm going to upload this webinar onto our YouTube channel. So if there's anything that you kind of would like to reference or to read back on, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, I am available here on email, or I think most of you should have my office number here as well. I hope to see all of you at St Catherine's on Thursday the 5th. And if you have any questions, absolutely, please do let me know. But if there are no other questions for now, I'm going to end this webinar. So thank you very much for your attention this afternoon, and hopefully I will see you all on the 5th of October. Take care.